On today's question of faith, how can I create time for God this summer? Hey everybody, this is Question of Faith. I am Deacon Mike. I am the Young Adult Ministry Director here in the Diocese of Cleveland.
And I'm Father Damian, the Vicar for Evangelization.
I am Hortensia Rodriguez, and I am the new Director for Hispanic Ministry.
Yeah, you are.
Welcome. Bienvenidos.
Bienvenido.
Bienvenidos.
Bienvenida. Okay, I'm still working on it. That's good. At least I got the root down.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, thank you for being here. So, Hortensia, you've worked for the diocese for some time, but now you are in a new position as the Director of Hispanic Ministry, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and we're so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Father.
It's great. Great. Wonderful woman. You may see her. She's often at daily mass across the street at the cathedral, and she's at everything. So.
Yes. She has a longer commute now, up 3 more floors, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
From,
that's right. It's nice. Closer to the chapel, though, right?
Oh, my God, yes. That is a blessing.
Yeah. So, well, it's awesome to have you. I just came off retreat. So last week, Deacon Mike and Father Eric Garris had the podcast, and they mentioned that I was retreating, and I was. I went to a place Mike's familiar with. Deacon Mike is familiar with the, what is it? It's
the Casa.
It's called the Casa, and I want to put forward, hold on, let me get it. It's the Franciscan Renewal Center.
That's correct.
FRC, the
Yes.
FRC, Franciscan Renewal Center. It's in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I flew out there on Monday and stayed until Saturday, although my retreat ended Friday at noon because there were folks in from Cleveland for the Life Teen Convention, and I had dinner with them. But
nice.
It was wonderful. And one of the things that I did when I was there, and I do on my retreats, is, I have to be tethered to my phone as part of my job here for emails and Teams and social media and all this. But for retreat, I turn the thing off, like literally. And one thing that's interesting, at least about the iPhone, I don't know if this is true about Samsung, but they're difficult to turn off.
They kind of are, yeah.
That's intentional.
They're going to keep the thing pressed for a while.
Because they don't want you ever to turn them off.
That's right.
If they did, there'd be an easy on-off switch, like a light switch. So these companies want you to always be attached to your phone, and the Lord doesn't. So to talk about one of the ways that we can give the Lord more of our time and be more present in prayer, I know what helped for me tremendously on retreat was being able to turn my phone off. And I turned it off on Monday night and did not turn it back on until noon on Friday. And that gave me a great freedom. Like I didn't have an alarm clock. I didn't have, I had my watch, but I really didn't have to be anywhere except Mass at 8 o'clock. And because it was 8 o'clock Arizona time, I was up every morning by 6.
And to be more specific, your watch is not a smartwatch. It's
just
a regular old watch.
It's a Timex Ironman. It's $40. And and I use it when I swim, so it was great. Yeah. So anyway, one of the ways that I think you can make time for God or give Him more space this summer is by taking a break from your phone. And maybe you don't literally put it off, but when it comes time for prayer, maybe you leave it.
Yep, that's what I do.
In another room and turn it on silent so that you're not distracted by it. But that would be one way I think that you could make some more time and space for God. How about you all?
Yeah, same for me. I was going to say that I take my phone. Sometimes I use the app for morning and evening prayer, but I turn my notifications off just so it doesn't disturb me. But if I'm used to using my regular breviary, then I just take the phone, put it on the other side of the room. The other thing that I've started doing at my wife's bequest is taking the phone, and when we pray grace before meals, is take the phone and just put it on somewhere else in the room so that we're not disturbed and that we're present to each other as well as present to God during our prayer. So it's just 2 easy ways.
Hortensia?
Father, summer is a great opportunity to take time and grow in my relationship with God, especially since summer, the days are longer and the nights are shorter. So we have no excuse for not having time with Him. Summer is one of my favorite seasons in the year because, I have the opportunity to have more family time, more personal activities. And personally, one of my activities is that to take more time to grow in my relationship with God. In summer, I increase the ways that I connect with God in my everyday life. And I increase kind of a 5 different ways
to
make time with God.
Uno.
I spend more minutes in my morning prayer.
Okay.
I spend more minutes on my night prayer.
Nice.
And, Father, I really enjoy riding my bike. And when I do it, I take the opportunity to talk to God on summertime.
Yeah, nice contemplative rides. I love it.
And another thing that I really enjoy is walking on the sand, and I take advantage of, to pray the rosary and meditate in each mystery and the fruit that each mystery offers us.
So no earbuds when you're walking or when you're riding your bike. You're not listening to music. You're just being.
Enjoy, the
surroundings,
the time, the surroundings.
Yeah, cool. Okay. What else? Did you have another one?
Well, I have a devotional book. It's called 365 Days, Accompanied by Saints. I have that book here.
Oh, there you go.
In Spanish.
Nice.
See.
And this summer, I promised myself not only to read the saints presented in this devotional book every day, but to meditate and learn more about the saints who inspire me on the path of my faith.
Very cool. Now, when you're not on your bike or when you're not walking, do you have a favorite place to pray? In your home or in a park or in a church? Is there a place that you go to pray? I see you, obviously, at Daily Mass across the street at the cathedral at noon. But other than that, is there a place you like to go?
I go to St. Michael Parish in Independence, Ohio.
Yeah.
They have the,
Adoration Chapel?
Adoration Chapel. 24/7.
Oh, nice.
So I like to go, especially Sunday night when I am by myself with him.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy. Sometimes I don't even talk.
Yeah. How does that work? Talk about how that works. So if people are used to talking in prayer and reciting prayers, what happens when you don't talk? And how do you know that it's not just your thoughts? How do you know that it's God's voice?
Sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's not too easy.
Okay.
But I think learn how to talk to God in silence is very important.
Yeah, how do you do it?
Just silence.
Yeah.
And sometimes I hear his voice.
How do you know it's his voice?
Because of peace.
Ah, the fruits of it, I see. Nice.
I think when you... And I always ask God, please, let me go to this time with you, and I want to live different. And when I feel peace, it means that I was with him.
Very cool. How about you, Deacon Mike? Where do you pray? I know I see you sometimes in your office praying your breviary.
That is the usual place for my prayer during the weekdays. And then we have a roof deck in our apartment building, and so sometimes I go up to the roof deck and I sit in a big old chair. It's up there, and I just kind of look out on the horizon, and especially if it's sunset or sunrise, which is nice. And I'll sit there with my breviary and pray there. I do the daily examen as well, and so that kind of doesn't take a regular time for me. That's like, well, when I have a chance,
Yeah.
But it usually happens daily, and every once in a while, a day will get away from me, and I'll be, didn't do the examen before I go to bed or something. Yeah. But in general, sometimes around lunchtime, I know you're always, on Tuesdays when we're always eating, you're always like, hey, bring your ball. And I'm like, yeah, right after I do the exam, I'll bring the ball that we use to, so everybody gets a turn to talk. Yeah. And then Hortensia, like you, I kind of like taking walks, and I take a lot of pictures, and so I've sort of taken to taking some nature pictures and then asking myself, well, what struck me to take that picture, and what might God be asking of me in meditating on the picture that I took.
Nice.
And I know you said that I do a lot of prayer in my office. One of the reasons I do a lot of prayer in my office is because my office is littered with pictures. It's like, yes, they are.
It's true.
I put a bunch of new ones up. You should come in.
I will.
And what I do is when I get to the intentions of the prayer, I add a prayer for every picture in the office and pray for everybody by name, which you've inspired me to do, FD, by praying for people by name.
Yeah, I think it goes a long way. And over time, things click in when you do that sort of thing. And I won't say anything more about that at this point. In terms of where I pray, in the rectory, there are 4 floors. So first floor is like our dining room and the living room. Second floor is the bishop's floor, but it's on his floor where we have our chapel and the Blessed Sacrament's in there. So oftentimes I'll go there in the morning for 40 minutes. I do 40 minutes of prayer because I also do a rosary every day, which is about 20 minutes, but I don't like to sit when I pray my rosary because Mary went in haste to visit Elizabeth, so I usually like to be moving, either in my car or on a walk. And I also have a really comfortable reading/prayer chair in my suite up on the 4th floor, and I like to sit and pray there. So, for instance, this morning we had senior staff. I knew we were going to spend time in the chapel in front of the Blessed Sacrament here, so I just prayed morning and office of readings and did my examen in my prayer chair, and then came over here and then did that. So sometimes I break up the prayer a little bit, but I want to speak to the examen prayer, Mike, or Deacon Mike, because that for me, that's a very important part of my day. And I don't do it at the end of the day. I do it the next morning. And basically, I review everything that happened the day before and try to see where God was working. Maybe there's something I missed. Why was I upset at this? Why was I excited about this? How did this move my heart? And then I just have conversations with the Lord about that. I have a good friend who talks about it like having a basket. You have a basket and then your whole day's in there and you just take out one little piece of what's in the basket at a time, kind of look at it, study it, and make sense of it. Like, so it's basically you're shining the light of the Holy Spirit upon your life and then coming in to better understand how the Lord's working there. And as you said, Hortensia and Deacon Mike, these things, you need to be free of distraction to give your whole self to it. Just like you don't want your phone on the table because what that tells people you're eating with, this phone's more important than me. So when you put that away, you're giving the other person your complete attention. The same is true with God. So when your phone's not there and you're just locked in, He can give you everything He wants, and you can give God everything that you have, and it's real communion time.
You know, Father, sometimes we feel that we are always too busy, too tired, but I always trying to schedule an appointment with God. And respect the time.
Yes.
And just sit quietly with God to experience His presence in my life. Now, as a new director for the Hispanic ministry, I used to invite, but now I invite more the Holy Spirit to be my friend. And I need the help of, wisdom, discernment. And I asked Virgin Mary, please accompany me. I need practice more virtues. So I think Mary is crucial. It's the first catechist, and I need her, and she knows that I need her.
And she shows us how to trust God and how to be open to Him with her fiat. That's important. I think what you said about scheduling time is key. It's similar to being an artist or a writer. If you think you'll write or create art when you're inspired, you're not going to create anything. And what you create won't be as good as if you say, I am going to give my time to this. And in that discipline, setting aside this part of time, you'll be there to catch when the inspiration comes. And sometimes in prayer, it may be dry for the first 25 minutes, and then it's only in the last 5 minutes where everything kind of comes together. So setting aside that time is when you are rewarded because of that commitment. And the same is true with diet or exercise. You say, I am going to do this. And it sucks sometimes, and it doesn't feel like anything's happening. But over time, those disciplines help you. It's similar to the vocation of marriage or priesthood, diaconate, religious life. You keep the vows keep you. So you say, I am going to be true to what I promised. And God, He's so faithful. So what He asks for us is not like to have ecstasy every time that we pray or locutions, but this is Mother Teresa, it's not to be successful, it's to be faithful. And the faithfulness is what builds the relationship. I think that's so important.
That's correct. I agree with you, Father.
Yeah. Consistency is always the key. It's like, and the 12-step people say this. Fake it till you make it. It's like, okay. The first couple times, I always liken it to going to the gym. Which really resonates with me. The first time you go back to the gym after you haven't been in there a while, boy, is it hard.
Oh.
Right? You're like, man, I used to be able to lift 250 pounds, and now I can't lift 100, right? And so you got to work your way back up to it. The same's true with prayer. The first thing, you're not going to be able to pray for a whole hour without a whole bunch of distractions, So maybe you do 10 minutes and see how that goes, and then say, okay, tomorrow let me do 20, and tomorrow let me do half an hour, and then...
Mike, and I think as men and women of faith, we need discipline, especially on prayer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and think of anything that's very important to you. A doctor's appointment, a dentist's appointment, and a meeting with your boss, a date, whatever it is, you're going to make that. A concert, right? A sporting event. I'm going to be here on time. Well, that has to carry over to our relationship with God. He is my top priority. I have to love him above all things. So I need to carve out some time every day just to spend with the one that I love. And as Hortensia said, the deeper you get into this, the less you actually have to say. I've used this example before. I remember visiting my dad in the nursing home near the end of his life. Sometimes I just like to be in his presence. I didn't have to say anything. I knew he loved me. I knew I loved him, and it was just good to be with him. And the same is true with God. Like just being with makes us more like the one that we're with, right? And that's the whole point of prayer is we're to become God. We're to become holy. We're to become saintly. So,
Father, I am mother of 3 daughters, and sometimes they ask me, Mom, we need time for us because everybody's busy. So the same happened with God, right? We need God more than he needs us.
Oh, yeah. He doesn't need us at all, which is great because if he did, then it would be cruel. But he loves us not out of need, but out of just a sheer act of being. Yeah.
And the benefit is for us.
Yeah.
If we grow in a relationship with God, we are going to be very beneficial.
Yeah, right. And then other people get to know God through us because we're friends with him, which is the point. I want to say one more thing about time spent in prayer. And one of the things that I did a lot of on my retreat was writing and journaling.
Good for you.
Poems, just reflections. And I posted something on Instagram today, a story. There was a little clip on Taylor Swift. And she said something that Flannery O'Connor has said. I've heard Jordan Peterson say it. I think it's completely true, that you really don't know what you think until you write it. Because writing helps you clarify your thoughts. And even in prayer, you may have an experience, but it's not until you write it down where it really comes into clarity and focus. This is what the Lord's doing here. This is what I'm thinking about. And I think that's so helpful to journal, to write. And then it may not be, I was not on a directed retreat, but next time I see my spiritual director, I've got things to share with him and to bounce off him and say, what's going on here? What do you think of this? And to share those fruits of your contemplation with others can be super beneficial.
I was saying to someone the other day, I said, one of the things that I miss about being on a college campus was the opportunity to pray at graduation. And then I started to think about it. I said, well, how many times do I get to write a prayer? And I was like, actually fairly often in my job, but, not every day, certainly. But, like I helped write the Eucharistic Revival Prayer and, things like that. But Megan Boland and I were talking the other day, and she said, Mike, you should write a book of prayers.
Yeah,
and I was
you're good at it.
Huh. I was like, I didn't think about doing this. And so I started outlining, well, what are all the things that I pray for? And now I've started to write them down, and it's starting to come along now. So I was like, oh, this might be pretty good.
Yeah.
The other thing is our softball league started. We'll have a softball update in 1 second,
okay.
But St. John Bosco has a really lovely adoration chapel, and so before I go home, I usually go into the church area there, and then when I use the bathroom before I go home, because it's a long drive. And then I said, at the end of this day, I'm really tired, and it's a really good time for me to kind of to sit and pray. I either score or umpire. I'm out there on my feet pretty much all day. Yeah. And certainly not playing. The players are far more exhausted than I am. But it's a good time just to kind of sit and be with God. And I said, so if we're going to run this league, I need to take time to really be grateful for the time that I get to spend with these young folks. And I got to tell you, the league has gotten so much better. Players have gotten better. Games have gotten better. That's just 1 week, so
it's great.
It was a really good time to kind of sit in there. And the chapel, and the adoration chapel there is lovely.
Yeah, it's one of the best in the diocese, and it was built not to be like the corner where you put the tabernacle, but really a space of adoration, and it's a monstrance with one of those big 24-piece hosts, so it's very visible, and it's great. A great space, and a lot of people visit that. So if you haven't been to John Bosco, certainly the church, Father Matt Burns, the pastor there, Father Joe Workman's parochial vicar, but also the Eucharistic Adoration Chapel, which is just to the left of it, to the west of it.
And it's all open with glass all around, so you have like the nature that's sort of surrounding you as well, which I really love. Yeah.
San John Bosco is in Parma, right?
Parma Heights.
Oh, Parma Heights.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And so we play softball every Sunday out there in Parma Heights, and so it's time for this week's softball update. All right, week 1 in the Diocesan Softball League. We're off to a rousing start. Game 1, thoroughly entertaining, with the Ite Mighty Doves walking it off in the last inning, an 8-7 win against the newcomer team, the Blue Scapulars. For a while, it looked like Ite had this in hand. They were up 5-1 after 4 innings, but the Scapulars batted around in the bottom of the 5th, scoring 6 runs to take a 2-run lead, get the big blast off of the bat of Nick Kruner, who hit his second homer of the day, a 3-run shot, to go along with the solo home run he had earlier in the 4th. That gave the Blue Crew a 2-run lead, but Ite, who didn't score in the 5th, came back in the 6th inning, 4 straight hits. The winning shot, Andrew Kukla with a walk-off hit that followed Joel Garvin's RBI single that tied things up. Ite now 1-0. Game 2, a bit more one-sided. A much improved Westside Whitecaps team all over Grapes of Wrath, 17-6. Brendan DeVenny, 3 hits, 4 RBIs, nearly had a homer, but for a close play at the plate where he was tagged out by Xavier McFarland of Grapes of Wrath. Michael Kay, 2 hits, 2 RBIs, and this one as well for the Whitecaps. And Wennerberg, the saving grace for the Grapes of Wrath, a 3-run homer in the 6th inning. Whitecaps now 1-0. Defending champs Catching Flamingos meant business in Week 1, a 14-3 win over the Young Vitus Lions. Zach Hammerhuber, a home run, a triple, a single, 3 runs scored, 5 RBIs. Boy, that's a day to remember. Jimmy Ludwig with 3 RBIs, Christian Bennett with a homer as well. Sean Arman had 2 hits in the loss for Vitus. Flamingos back on top, 1-0. And in the nightcap, the Chosen Ones took on one of the newcomers, the Parma Peacocks. They prevailed 8-5, but let me tell you, a young Peacocks team, mark my word, they're going to be tough this year. They only fielded 9 players, jumped out to a 2-0 lead, a 2-run homer by Joe Vicario. They held that lead through the first 3 innings, even though they only fielded 9 players. But a 3-error inning opened the floodgates for the Chosen Ones in the 4th. They would add 3 more in the 5th. Parma came right back with 3 more in the 5th to cut that lead to 7-5. But the Chosen Ones added another run in the 6th, and Parma went quietly in the bottom of the inning. They lost 8-5. Chosen Ones now 1-0. So Big League Chew and St. Joe's Vikings had the week off. And speaking of weeks off, Father's Day has the whole league taking a day off as well. So take Dad out to lunch. Come on out then on the 23rd at St. John Bosco Field for Week 2 of Diocesan Softball. All right, Week 1 in the books with softball. A lot of fun this week. Couple of new teams, which is good, so that'll be a lot of fun. So we're taking a week off for Father's Day. We'll be back not this coming Sunday, but
this Sunday's Father's Day.
This Sunday is Father's Day.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, you have a couple other things going on around the diocese that you want to talk about.
2 things, yes. So one is this Thursday. Y'all know I'm a big fan of Flannery O'Connor.
No, not you.
I think you may know that Ethan Hawke produced a film starring his daughter Maya, who plays Flannery, and about 6 other characters in the film. Its premiere in Cleveland is this Thursday night at the Cedar Lee Theater. I'm not sure if tickets are still available, but I will be there, and I know many cinephiles will be there, not S-I-N-C-I-N-E, cinephiles like cinema, to see this film, and I think you'll like it. And it should be still running there as long as people go. So check out Wildcat. And the other thing is, and Hortensia, maybe you could speak to this too. On June 24th, it's Monday night, the Nativity of the John the Baptist, we are having our only ballpark mass this summer at Canal Park in Akron, Ohio. Bishop Malesic will be there. Father Capot from Archdiocese of Miami will be preaching.
Awesome.
Then we're going to have a Eucharistic procession up to St. Bernard Church, where there will be an XLT, Eucharistic Adoration, also bilingual. And Hortensia, I know you've been on the front lines of organizing this event. Do you have anything to say about it?
I think this is going to be awesome opportunity to get together, all the communities in the Diocese of Cleveland as a family, together doing this procession and in the presence of Bishop and our special guest.
Yeah. And he's going to be at the other three. He's going to be in Lake County, Cuyahoga County, and Lorain County, right? The masses before he comes in or something?
He's going to celebrate Mass June 22, Saturday, 5 p.m. at La Sagrada Familia.
Okay.
He will be celebrating Mass in Spanish. And the next day, Sunday, the 23rd, in Cleveland also, in San Michael.
Nice.
The Mass will be at 12.
Nice.
12 p.m. So it'll be an honor.
Great.
For the Hispanic community having Father Capo.
If you haven't heard Father Capo, he is a great preacher.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And if you follow him on Instagram, his biceps are the size of my torso.
Yeah,
he's a bodybuilder.
He is jacked. Yes,
yeah.
He's in great shape. All right.
I think that was it.
Was that?
Oh, we'll have the registration in the show notes. So please.
Yeah. For ballpark.
It helps us just know how many people are coming, and it's free. So just come on out that day. It's not a Sunday Mass, so it's not like you're obliged to, but it's a Eucharistic revival event, and it's going to be wonderful. And whether you speak Spanish or English, come on out. It'll be great.
Yeah. We've made it really easy for you to communicate with us through the show notes now. If you look at the top of the show notes, there's a way that you can send us a message with just one click. So if you have questions of faith, you can send those to us by doing that, just clicking right on that link, and we'll get a message from you, and that will be your question. If you have a comment or you have other kinds of things that you'd like to send to us, feel free by doing it that way. Also, rate and review our podcast. That's a really good way to get other people to know about what we do here. And we appreciate it too. We like the feedback. If nothing else, we actually enjoy criticism. I think even when it's not great, we learn.
If it's true, it's good.
If it's true, it's good. That's true. If it's unfair, then we don't like it. All right, let's take a look at the readings for the 11th Sunday in Ordinary Time. I'm preaching this week, actually, for the first time at St. Chris, the 10 and the 11:30.
Beautiful parish.
On Sunday, yeah. And so what stood out to me is it is like a mustard seed that when it is sown into the ground, it is the smallest of all the seeds of the earth, but once it is sown, it springs up and becomes the largest of plants and puts forth large branches so that the birds of the sky can dwell in its shade. Have you ever seen, like, the produce of a mustard seed? I mean, it's just this huge, wild,
big,
crazy, messy plant. Yeah, messy's a good word for it, yeah. But I think what Jesus is getting at is not a lesson in horticulture, but rather it's sometimes the smallest thing can have the biggest impact on us if we look for God in it. So I think that's what I took away from it.
Hortensia, any reflections on that?
I'm thinking when I'm talking about plants and fruits and things like that, I see the presence of God, the grace of God.
Yeah.
And little things.
Yeah.
How God is amazing.
Yeah. I'm similar. I went with the gardening seeds theme. And for me, I remember during COVID, someone had said that therapists will often recommend gardening to people who are in therapy because the process is slow. You plant the seed, it needs water, it needs sun, it needs good soil, and things don't happen instantaneously, but over time, things grow and they flourish. And in that same time is how grace works often in our lives. Certainly, it can come in and knock us on our feet or off our feet instantaneously, but oftentimes grace is a slow process and conversion is a slow process. And gardening and vegetation, these kind of things remind us of that too. It doesn't all happen at once. Be patient, trust in the Lord. He's doing good work.
This week, we hope that you can trust in the Lord as you be patient in the many ways in your life that God tries to speak to you. It's a summertime. You could relax. Yeah. You could have fun.
Leisure. Enjoy yourself.
Leisure.
Enjoy yourself.
And let God speak to you in the many ways that he does. And next time, we hope that we'll see you right here on Question of Faith.